bitch. You mean to tell me that our president, the man in charge of the United States of America, is threatening Greenland because he didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize? This is the reality we're living in. Like, this isn't even a joke. Trump has threatened Greenland because he didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize. Babe, the Nobel Peace Prize. Emphasis on the word peace. And you're threatening Greenland because you didn't win it? Well, that gives the world even more reason to believe you shouldn't have won. Hi everyone, if you're new, welcome. If you're not new, you know what fucking time it is, bitch. It's time for the Daily Scream. The Nobel Committee did not rob you of that prize, babe. They clocked your shit. The fact that you lost the Peace Prize and because of that you immediately went, yeah, I'm gonna start a war with Greenland. Are you out of your mind? Donald Trump literally said to the Prime Minister of Norway, and I quote, "Because your country decided not to give me the Nobel Prize, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace. The United States is a nuclear superpower, and we just threatened a member of NATO. Our ally!" He then said, "The world is not secure unless we have complete and total control of Greenland. Greenland's a self-governing territory with 57,000 people who do not want to be owned, especially by the United States." Denmark was even like, you don't trade people. Greenland was like, we decide our own fate. So Trump was like, cool, tariffs. Because he didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize, Trump threatened 8 European countries with trade wars unless he's able to buy Greenland. So he's now floating the idea of putting tariffs on Denmark, Sweden, France, Germany, the Netherlands, the UK, Finland, Norway. So that's NATO, our literal alliance. It's like he deliberately wants to destroy NATO. And Russia and China are sitting back watching all of this unfold. He's literally doing all the hard work for the countries that want us to crumble. And he's doing it by purely being a straight up dumbass. And his cabinet just sits idly by and they're like, yes, this is perfect. You bitches are just as dumb and complicit as this geriatric moron. We're watching a grown man who has our nuclear launch code threaten global stability because he didn't get his trophy. This isn't leadership. This is a toddler having a meltdown. Also, if you don't already, make sure to follow me on Instagram. I post everything cross-platform, especially because TikTok likes to shadow ban political commentary for some reason. So yeah, if you miss one of my videos over here, if you follow me on Instagram, at least you get to see it over there. Love you guys. Okay, yeah, no. Why is TikTok talking to me like a cursed fucking Ouija board? Could somebody please explain to me why my search page looks like this? This device has been seized. That's why I'm not warning you about the demon. Stop closing your door at night. Beware of the man who speaks in hands. Oh yeah, this shit isn't ominous or scary at all. Totally normal fucking things to see on my recommended search list. Mind you, it says stop closing your door at night was just watched. I can guarantee without a shadow of a doubt, no the fuck it was not. Why the fuck would I ever watch something like that? This feels threatening. This feels like a threat. It feels like the deep state and the US government are watching me through my phone camera. And every scroll I take on this app is being debriefed in a dark private room. So if you're keeping tabs on me and watching me through my phone, hey, please stop. This is actually kind of scary and weird. I need you guys to understand what's happening in Minnesota right now because it's not normal and it's also not something that should just be swept under the rug. Several of Minnesota's largest school districts are offering remote learning again. Not because of snow, not because of COVID, but because children are afraid to go to school. This comes as federal immigration enforcement has escalated in Minnesota's Twin Cities. And last week, that escalation turned deadly. Renee Good, a 37-year-old mother and U.S. citizen, was shot and killed by a federal agent. Since then, school attendance has completely collapsed. In St. Paul, about half of Spanish-speaking students and a quarter of Somali-speaking students were absent in a single day. In a nearby district, a third of students haven't shown up to school at all in a week. Superintendents are saying this very plainly. The students are terrified. Parents have been detained while dropping their children off at school. Federal agents clashed with protesters outside of a high school. An educator was reportedly detained. Tear gas was deployed near a school's campus. And even though this current administration claims that ICE doesn't target schools, Trump rescinded protections that once limited immigration enforcement from going near schools, churches, hospitals. So now families are being told, trust us, while watching armed agents show up anyways. Let that sink in. School districts are reintroducing pandemic-style remote learning, something that they know harms students academically and emotionally. But they're doing this because it's the only way to keep kids safe and accounted for right now. One administrator even said that this isn't about convenience. This is about preventing mass absences, dropouts, trauma. A 15-year-old even said that his friends are afraid to hang out anymore. They just go straight home because they're afraid of ICE encounters. When a government's actions makes children afraid to go to school, that should be a flashing red warning sign. Schools should be places of safety, not places families feel they need to avoid to survive.
It will go like that. So it's not a pear, but it's a perfect hourglass.
ICE detained a 5-year-old preschooler. A fucking 5-year-old! His name is Liam Conejo Ramos. He had just gotten home from school. He and his dad had just pulled into the driveway. The car was still running, and ICE showed up. Another adult in the home who was witnessing everything begged ICE to let them take the child, and ICE said no. Instead, an agent took the 5-year-old out of the car, walked him to his front door, and told him to knock to see who was inside. They used a 5-year-old as bait. Let that sink in. They used a 5-year-old as bait. The family has an active asylum case, no deportation order. They came through a legal port of entry, and now both Liam and his father are being held in a detention center in Texas. Imagine being a 5-year-old preschooler, getting ripped away from everything you know, and then getting shipped across the country to a random detention center you've never been to before. This is a child. DHS says that they didn't target a child. The father fled and abandoned him, but school officials say that the father was in the driveway. The car was still running, and someone was there asking ICE to give them Liam. So what is it? Because right now it sounds like our government is trying to rewrite a story to make it sound like a 5-year-old was collateral damage. And this isn't an isolated incident. In the same district, a 10-year-old was detained on her way to school with her mom. She called her dad while it was happening, and by the end of the day, both the mother and daughter were in an ICE detention center in Texas. A 17-year-old was taken from their car by an armed, masked ICE agent. There were no parents present when this happened. Another 17-year-old and her mother were detained in their apartment. 4 students in mere weeks. Not adults, children and teenagers. ICE vehicles are circling schools, following buses, pulling into parking lots. Did you know that they had to put recess inside because ICE agents were patrolling around playgrounds? Playgrounds! Do you hear me? Children are afraid to go to school. Parents are afraid to drop their kids off at school. And they want us to believe that this is about public safety? Tell me, how are 2 17-year-olds, a 10-year-old, and a 5-year-old a public threat? These are not criminals. They are children. And if you're looking at all this happening, thinking it's normal, thinking it's fine, I hope you take pleasure in knowing that you are standing on the wrong side of history. Donald Trump just announced that starting February 1st, he's cutting off federal funding to sanctuary cities and also the states that contain them. Let me reiterate, he's not talking about one city. He isn't talking about one policy. He's talking about defunding entire states. Education, housing, childcare, healthcare. Hi everyone, if you're new, welcome. If you're not, you know what fucking time it is, bitch. It's time for the Daily Scream. He said this at the Detroit Economic Club, where he claimed that sanctuary cities breed crime and protect criminals. Which is wild, because not only is there no legal definition for sanctuary city, but this is literally coming from a convicted felon. A sanctuary city usually means that the cops there don't act like ICE. That's it. That's the felony here. Then the DHS jumped in and they were like, no, this is actually about violent criminals. Bitch, a convicted felon is our president! And Trump is threatening to do all of this even though courts have already ruled repeatedly that you can't punish states by yanking unrelated federal funds. Judges have called this plan unconstitutional, coercive, illegal, yet here we are. Again. But now Trump's like, actually, brand new idea here. If any city in your state has sanctuary policies, then the entire state will lose federal funding. So again, that's healthcare, childcare, housing, education, all gone because one city in your state was like, hey, maybe we shouldn't allow local police to act like ICE agents. But are we surprised? This is the same man who froze $10 billion in childcare funds to blue states, tried canceling $7.6 billion in clean energy grants, and if I haven't said it already, is, oh yeah, a convicted felon! This isn't about safety. This is about punishing political enemies enemies with federal funding. And that's not law and order, that's financial hostage taking. And the funniest part about all of this is he's already lost this fight, like multiple times. In multiple courts. But sure, yeah, let's try this again until you find a judge who wants to suck you dry.
I am probably the president's #1 fan, and that's not going to change.
No. Absolutely not. Who the fuck is holding a gun to Nicki's head? Dead fucking serious. I feel like my brain is processing this the way it processed a car crash. Slow, loud, soul levitating out of my body. Nicki Minaj. The same Nicki Minaj whose entire brand is essentially, I do and say what I want, fuck the system, is now like, yeah, Trump, that's my guy. I'm his #1 fan. I feel like I'm witnessing a plot twist that was written by a man who hates women. Because when a celebrity goes from giving very much main character energy to then endorsing and supporting a villainous bastard, I don't go, oh, that's interesting. I go, oh, so who got you? Who threatened? Who offered? Who blackmailed? Because if Nicki Minaj is Trump's #1 fan, I'm the fucking Pope. And the thing is, I'm not trying to argue political views with the barbs. I'm here because this does not feel real or genuine at all. So before any barbs come at me crazy and they're like, people are allowed to change their political opinions. People can have different opinions than you. Yeah, I agree. People have and change their opinions all the time. But people can also have PR problems, tax problems, money problems, legal problems, business problems, and a friend in a high position of power who is willing to fix all of that for them. Sometimes it's not an opinion, it's a fucking transaction. So take everything she says at that fucking podium with Trump behind her with a grain of salt. Our president, the President of the United States, just casually floated the idea of canceling the 2026 midterm elections. In an interview with Reuters, Trump said, and I'm not paraphrasing here, when you think of it, we shouldn't even have an election. So, have the alarms started going off for some of you bitches yet? Hi everyone, if you're new, welcome. If you're not, you know what fucking time it is, bitch. It's time for the Daily Scream. When asked if he would respect the results of the midterms, he said, I respect elections, but they're rigged. The White House immediately tried to clean this shit up, claiming that Trump was just joking. So a reporter asked a very basic question. Does the president find canceling elections funny? And instead of answering, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt just snapped at him.
Were you in the room? No, you weren't. I was in the room. I heard the conversation, and only someone like you would take that so seriously and pose it as a question in that way.
Here's the problem. You don't get to joke about ending democracy when you've already tried to overturn an election. You don't get to joke about ending democracy when you quite literally attempted to incite an insurrection. And while they're all telling us that Trump's just joking, look at his actions. Trump is threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act in Minnesota over protests after an ICE agent brutally murdered Renee Good. People are peacefully protesting due to public outrage. That isn't an insurrection. And federal agents have already fired tear gas, including on children. A 6-month-old baby stopped breathing and a mother had to perform CPR on her own child. And when that happened, Trump's response wasn't de-escalation, it was more force. He didn't invoke the Insurrection Act on January 6th, but now, when people are protesting state violence, that's suddenly an insurrection. Polls show that ICE is wildly unpopular. Trump's approval is going downhill. Our economy is hanging on by a fucking thread. So instead of changing policy, he's floating canceling election and threatening military force. That isn't a joke. That's authoritarian behavior. This is how democracy erodes. So again, I ask, are the alarms going off for you yet? At this point, you bitches are evil. Like, actually clinically unwell in the head. And the scariest part about all of this is you're not even subtle about it, because what happened in Minneapolis this weekend is beyond fucking disturbing. To put it plainly, ICE agents publicly executed a man in broad daylight. And if hearing that didn't send shivers down your spine, let me try relaying this information to you in a different way. ICE agents publicly executed a man. And have there been any repercussions thus far? You guessed it, no. Hi everyone, if you're new, welcome. If you're not new, you know what fucking time it is, bitch. It's time for the Daily Scream. A 37-year-old man named Alex Pretti, who was a U.S. citizen with no criminal record, an ICU nurse, took care of veterans, cared for and loved people, was in Minneapolis at a protest recording ICE agents on his phone. That was all it took. The agents proceeded to shove him, pepper spray him, then drag him into the street, and while he was pinned down on the ground, surrounded by ICE agents, being repeatedly hit with a pepper spray canister, an ICE agent removed a firearm from Pretti's waistband. Then, those same ICE agents shot him, not once, not twice, but 10 times in under 5 seconds. They had him surrounded, pinned down to the ground, and had already removed his legal firearm. This is a diagram of what that scene looked like. That's not defense. That's a fucking firing squad on a helpless man. But then our government gets on TV and they're like, he arrived to massacre law enforcement. Bitch, where? Because the videos show him doing exactly one thing, and that's him existing with his phone, helping other protesters. Video evidence shows a step-by-step of the entire encounter between Pretti and the ICE agents. They literally had him detained and surrounded, and now he's dead because a group of ICE agents decided to empty their clips into him. And let's be real, you don't just miraculously wake up one day and become a person who's capable of unloading all of your ammunition into a man who's already pinned down on the ground. That requires moral rot. That requires you to be fucking evil, to want power, to feel powerful in that fuck-ass uniform. But they want us to trust them? Yeah, no. You ICE agents are fucking dangerous. Not because you executed a man, but because it's become increasingly evident that you would much rather kill someone first and then explain later. We see you. We all saw what happened, and you're not fooling anybody. You are evil.
Rue, if you screw me, I'll have you kidnapped and sold to some real sick people.
I said, Carl, what are you doing? And he told me to shut my fat ass up, and it was good for her.
And what did you do then?
I shut my fat ass up.
When I text, respond.
Okay.
Immediately, too. If you do not respond when I text you, it's a problem. And I am not playing.
I'm never done, ho. You gonna have to go every single motherfucking day. Every time I see you, bitch, we gonna get it up and I'm finna get active on you.
Because I am on medication, bitch. And my therapist is not doing it right. So please, tread lightly.
Donald Trump suggested that Vladimir Putin should help lead peace talks in Gaza. Let me say that again. Donald Trump suggested that Vladimir Putin should help lead peace talks in Gaza. Putin! The man currently invading Ukraine! That's literally like promoting an arsonist to lead the fire brigade. However you want it for new, welcome. If you're not, you know what fucking time it is, bitch. It's time for the Daily Scream! So Donald Trump invited Vladimir Putin to join his brand new Board of Peace, a committee Trump says will oversee Gaza and bring an end to the war. Putin, bitch? Really? This is a man who spent nearly 4 years invading Ukraine, leveling cities, killing thousands of innocent civilians, and openly refusing a ceasefire. Trump says this new board will be the greatest and most prestigious ever assembled, and if countries want a permanent seat on this board, they will have to pay $1 billion. So you want peace, but you have to pay to participate? Meanwhile, Trump continues to say that Putin wants peace and is blaming Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, for halting negotiations, even though Russia is the one that keeps bombing Ukraine and refusing to pause the war. So I guess bombing your neighbor is no longer a disqualifier from joining this Board of Peace. Yeah, cool. If Putin takes up this offer, it hands him legitimacy. It gives him a seat at the table and also provides him a pathway out of international isolation. Here's a general rule of thumb. You shouldn't be asking the person holding a lit box of matches to manage a ceasefire unless you're fine watching everything burn. How fucking stupid can you be? Also, if you don't already, make sure to follow me over on Instagram. I post all of my content cross-platform to Instagram Reels. That way, if you don't catch one of my videos over here, at least you have multiple ways to view my content.
What happened when I'm gonna take in the PlayStation, disconnect it, and put the whole thing in your ass?
On January 7th, 2026, the federal government shot and killed Renee Good. She was a 37-year-old U.S. citizen, a mother, a writer, a poet, and this all happened during a federal operation in Minneapolis. Almost immediately, federal officials claimed she was a domestic terrorist who tried to run over officers. But video evidence and eyewitness accounts directly contradicts that story. This video shows Renee moving slowly in her vehicle. She was going about 5 miles per hour. She's receiving directions from multiple federal agents. She appears to try to be turning away. There's no visible evidence that any officer was struck or injured. After watching the video, the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, rejected the federal account outright, calling it bullshit. This matters because this isn't an isolated incident. Just months months ago in Chicago, a federal judge found that immigration agents were systematically using excessive force and lying about it, including under oath. One agent even admitted to lying. The court also warned that the government's own evidence contradicted its public claims. And now, in Minnesota, the FBI has removed state investigators from this case, blocking access to evidence, the crime scene, interviews. When the same institution accused of wrongdoing controls the entire investigation, accountability disappears. It's like if an adult were accused of harming a child, and then that same adult got to decide whether what happened was wrong, whether there should be an investigation, or whether there should be any consequences. No one would accept that as fair. Federal agents should not be held to a lower standard than local police. There's also a legal loophole here. If a Minneapolis officer had done this, the family could sue for civil rights violations. But because this was a federal agent, that option might not exist. However, states can close that gap by passing laws that allow residents to hold any government official accountable for constitutional violations. This isn't about immigration policy. It's about if constitutional rights still apply if a federal agent is involved, and whether any of us are safe without real accountability. Renee Good deserved the truth, and Minnesota deserves an independent investigation. You know how Trump has been targeting Somali individuals and immigrants in Minnesota, using xenophobic rhetoric like calling them garbage, saying that they're trouble? Do you also remember when that right-wing YouTuber went viral for saying, Somali-run programs as a whole are proven to be massively fraudulent? And he said that with zero evidence to back any of his claims? Right. Well, let me introduce you to the actual person who's at the center of the largest welfare fraud scandal in Minnesota history. Everybody, meet Amy Bach. She was the founder and executive director of Feeding Our Children, which was at the center of the $250 million pandemic fraud scheme. And in March, a federal judge convicted her on multiple counts of fraud and conspiracy. She's not Somali. She's not an immigrant. She's a white woman. And prosecutors called her the mastermind. So what now? Because you've known this since March. It's been public, it's been in court, it's been on the news. But I'm sure not a lot of people have heard about her. Is it because, I don't know, you're still pointing the finger at Somali families? Is it because you're still harassing Somali businesses? Still cheering on ICE raids? Still pretending that this was about fraud and not about the people you think deserve to be in this country? So what now? Because the facts are right here. The convictions are right here. The supposed mastermind is right here. And somehow you're still blaming the people she exploited. Don't be a little fucking bitch. Say it with your entire fucking chest. This was never about fraud. This was never about accountability. It was about giving a poor excuse of justification for your needless hatred towards Somali individuals and immigrants in Minnesota. Because if this were actually about fraud, this case would have been closed the second Amy Bach got convicted in March. On New Year's Eve in Los Angeles, a 43-year-old man named Keith Porter Jr. was shot and killed by an off-duty ICE agent. Federal officials are saying that the agent bravely responded to an active shooter situation, but Keith Porter's family says that that description is completely false. They acknowledge that Keith was firing a gun into the air to celebrate the new year, something that, yes, is dangerous and illegal, but they say he wasn't an active shooter. He was just celebrating, and what happened next should have never happened. According to DHS, an off-duty agent heard gunshots from inside his apartment. He grabbed his service weapon and then went outside to investigate. Instead of staying in a position of safety and calling the LAPD, he chose to confront the situation himself while off duty. Keith's family and attorney say that neighbors did not hear the agent identify himself as law enforcement. They say no proper procedures were followed. The agent wasn't disarmed. He wasn't given a sobriety test. He wasn't immediately taken in for questioning. And to this day, the agent has not been publicly identified. Keith's mother stood in front of the LA City Council and told them that her son didn't even get to celebrate New Year's. He didn't get to pop champagne. He didn't get to say goodbye to his family. And his cousin asked a question that has still been unanswered. When is the person who killed him going to be named? When is there going to be an arrest? The case is being investigated by the LAPD and DHS, the same institution whose agent fired the shots. When the same system involved in killing somebody is then in charge of the entire investigation, accountability becomes incredibly hard to come by. And this isn't an isolated incident either. A week later, Renee Good was shot and killed by an ICE agent, and then immediately after deemed a domestic terrorist by federal officials. In Santa Ana, California, there was a 21-year-old protester, Caden Rumler. He was shot in the face by federal officers at close range by a crowd control projectile. He lost vision in his left eye, suffered multiple skull fractures, and was then dragged away while bleeding. Fortunately, he survived, but he will never see out of his left eye again. So when people say this is a pattern, This is what they mean. Not just one shooting, not just one protest, not just one person, but repeated decisions where federal force is used, and then the people harmed are treated as threats and slandered throughout the media before facts are even fully available. Federal agents, whether on or off duty, need to be held to the same standard as everybody else. Keith Porter Jr. had daughters, he had a family who loved him, and his family deserves transparency, answers, and due process, not silence. And the same goes for Renee Good. Justice doesn't start by defending institutions committing heinous acts of violence. It starts with telling the truth. The real truth. Babe, at this point, you bitches are pathetic. Like, really? You had AI edit a photo of a woman being arrested at a nice protest? Do you have no dignity? And after you got called out for altering that image, you outwardly defended yourselves by saying, "It's a meme!" You bitches are sad. You bitches are really, really sad. Hi everyone, if you're new, welcome. If you're not new, you know what fucking time it is, bitch. It's time for the Daily Scream! This is Nakima Levy-Armstrong. She's a civil rights attorney, and in this photo, she is calm, composed, well put together, not crying at all. But she was arrested after protesting an ICE-linked church protest in Minnesota. And this is what the White House posted on their official social media page. An image artificially changed to make it look like she's bawling her eyes out. They literally took a calm black woman, made her look hysterical and emotional, and darkened her skin. And when people called out this absolute tomfuckery, the White House was like, enforcement of the law will continue. The memes will continue. The memes will continue? This is the federal government. Like, let me repeat that. This is the federal government! And they're outwardly making racist posts to feed their agenda. This is state propaganda. This is a government that doesn't just want your obedience, they want your reality. They're not reporting actual events, they're manufacturing them. Why? Because they know that a majority of US citizens see right through their fucking bullshit. They know that we're all seeing this in real time, and we know how absolutely pathetic they look. We all know that these are power-hungry psychopaths that don't want to restore peace and order. They're all too busy munching off each other's titties. What they want to do, and what they are doing, is creating chaos to distract us from the fact that they're feeding themselves more power and more money. You guys look like fucking losers. If you don't know who this bitch is, this wackadoodle nutcase cosplaying as an SS sergeant in Nazi Germany is Gregory Bavino, Trump's trench-coated immigration enforcer. Now, some people saw him show up at the Minneapolis protests, and they were like, this seems kinda Nazi-coded. Yeah, because it is. A historian confirmed that, this is common military gear, but Bavino can't be unaware of the clear association, which means the jacket is a message. And shocker to absolutely nobody, the Trump administration is currently using white neo-Nazi nationalist propaganda language. DHS ran a recruitment saying, "We'll have our home again." That's a slogan from the Proud Boys and white extremist songs. We'll have our home again? Are you referring to the UK or some far-off country in Europe? Because last time I checked, the only people in the United States that should be saying, "We'll have our home again," are the indigenous individuals we stole this land from. Another video used Bible quotes, war imagery, Nazi-style typography, and it was set to the song, "Everybody Wants to Rule the World." A song about the dangers of power, not glorifying it. Then the Department of Labor posted, "Trust the plan, trust Trump, one homeland, one people, one heritage." That is QAnon language. That is fascist language. That's not a democracy. So when Bavino leads ICE blitzes across LA, Chicago, New Orleans, now Minneapolis, calling himself the commander at large and branding his strategy as turn and burn, that's not enforcement. That's him flexing how much power he has with the weapons at his disposal. And now we're currently seeing this constantly. ICE smashing car windows, they're storming malls. They even used a 5-year-old child as bait to lure his family out of their home. Liam, a 5-year-old taken by ICE, is now in a detention center in Texas with his father. And JD Vance was like, "Well, what are they supposed to do?" And then we have Bavino being like, "Well, we're definitely the experts at handling children." Sir, you both look and sound like absolute nightmares. You bitches are the embodiment of the Babadook. So if anyone ever asks you, is this fascism? Your response to them should be, yes. Yes, the fuck it is. And that should scare you. I just have a quick question for all of the US citizens who aren't aware of the current political climate of the United States. Like, you don't watch the news, you choose not to engage, you scroll past anything political because it makes you anxious or upset. What's it like being willfully fucking ignorant? What's it like knowing that your comfort solely depends on not caring about the people who are actively being harmed? Because here's the thing, yeah, seeing and reading what's happening in this country currently should make you uncomfortable. It should make you anxious. It should make you upset and scared. What you're seeing isn't too much for you to handle. It's the reality of what is happening in this country. Real people are losing their rights. Real people are being targeted. Real people are being erased. Real people are being killed. And you don't get to opt out of that just because it makes you uncomfortable. Because while you're out here trying to protect your peace, other people are actively fighting to protect their lives. This isn't political. This is unchecked power. This is survival. This is whether or not people get to exist safely. So if you're choosing silence or you're choosing ignorance, if you're choosing not to look around and see what is happening, just know you aren't protecting your peace. You're being complicit. And that should make you uncomfortable.